Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to Medical Mondays with Dr. O, to another exciting evening. And I bring greetings all the way from amazing Barbados. If you've never been, I encourage you to visit. It's been a wonderful time celebrating my nephew and his new bride. And to Medical Mondays with Dr. I have some to another exciting evening. I have some august guests with us also tonight from the Barbados, Sisters Masha Alain and Madge. They have been amazing to us. They've given us a presidential welcome, and I just want to welcome them to Medical Mondays with Dr. O. So I am Dr. Toyin Okwesami, a family practitioner, HIV specialist, and I treat substance use disorder in Maryland. I enjoy discussing things related to health, and tonight, as we've done in 2 other episodes, we're discussing financial health because it does impact medical health. And we have our very own Amazing Toyin presenting to us tonight. So I'm going to allow him introduce himself and take the floor. Welcome, sir. You're muted.
Okay, good evening, everyone. It's nice to be back again. Thank you, Dr. O, for giving me the opportunity to extend some education that I have to other people. So last week, I think I introduced myself. Most of the people here probably know who I am already. So my name is Toyin Dawodu. Some of my friends call me Amazing Toyin. I'm in real estate. I buy and sell properties. I'm also a broker. I have some education, both in real estate and in the School of Hard Knocks. You could put it that way. I have a couple of college degrees, which are not really as important as the knowledge that I gained from being on the street. So whenever I need money, I just go on the street. That's what I call it, on the street, because on the street is where most of the money is, which means real estate. So I focus on real estate because it's the fastest way for the average person who doesn't have a ton of money to get started and accumulate wealth as fast as possible, right? And last week, I think I spoke about, if you own a house right now and you bought it 10 years ago, you probably either gain 30, 40, 50% equity in your house, okay? Depending on how you bought the house, if you bought a house with FHA loan and you put 3% down, then you've gained a lot of return, cash on cash return, compared to if you had bought stock. Okay, so for example, you put down 3% on a $100,000 house or $200,000 house about 10 years ago, and you put down about 10 grand, 15 grand. Depending on what stock you bought or what other assets you put the money, the chances are your real estate probably returned better in the last 10 years than, for example, stock market, or even gold, platinum, oil, depending on where you are, okay? Because real estate gives you the opportunity to get in with low amount of money, and plus you have the leverage to begin with, and you have appreciation. In some areas, the appreciation is accelerated if you're in certain states, okay, put it that way. Some states have actually doubled because the average price, for a property in the US about 10, 20 years ago was way down to about 200, in some areas less. Okay, right now it's about $348,000, the average price of a house. So that doesn't mean your house is 348. It means that that's just the average. So depending on where you live, yours could be a lot higher than that. But even if your house is worth $1 million today, the chances are you bought it for less than 500, 15 or 20 years ago. Okay, and if your state is not appreciating fast enough, you could still take your money and put it in other states that are appreciating. So having said that, last week when I spoke, I think I ended up by giving you some parting words, right? I don't know if anybody remembers, so Dr. Who can let them speak. How many people remember what I said at the end of last week's webinar regarding real estate? Does anybody remember? You could put it in the chat,
I remember, but I'm going to be quiet for now.
So, you could put in the chat or raise your hand, and then Dr. Who can let you talk. So I'm going to leave that for a little bit in case some people remember. If not, then
how long are you going to give us to give you the answer?
Okay, so 1 minute. How about that? Is that enough?
That's too long. Dr. Ajagbe, what was it for?
If you remember, it should be right there, right? Let me see.
You said we should, looking at neighborhoods and everywhere, open our eyes and see properties that we can possibly invest in that's been abandoned, or
Correct.
Those possibilities. Was that what you said?
Yes, that's what I said.
Yes. What do I get for that?
Okay, so
you get your whole house for that.
so how many people have seen a house in their neighborhood in the last 1 week that needs help? You could raise your hand. While you're driving, you drove by a property and you look at it and say, that property needs help. How many? No one? Oh, me. Okay, Hannah. Okay, Hannah said, yeah, she did, right? Who's Hannah? Can you
That's Dr. Hannah.
Okay. So
Auntie
Dr. Hannah,
Tower has her hand raised. Auntie Tower has her hand raised. Yeah, go ahead.
So that's two people right there. So who's gonna talk first?
Auntie Tower, go ahead, ma. You can unmute. There you go. Good evening, ma.
Good evening, everyone. Yeah, Amazing Toyin. Thank you very, very much. Yeah, there are a couple of houses that I saw. I drove around, I saw them, and I tried to find out about them, but I'm still in the process.
Okay. That's good. That's your first step. At least you recognized and you noticed them, right? And so that's this first thing I want everyone to be consciously thinking about. Okay.
So,
and
Amazing Toyin, if I may interject, for the benefit of those who were not here last week, I have two august guests, for instance, from Barbados.
I see. Okay.
They've never, So can you please just refreshing our memories, or you give a little bit more light into what we're looking for when we drive around, please?
Oh, I see. Okay. So it's possible that this exists in Barbados also, because where there are real estate, usually the owners sometimes have a reason to neglect their property. Either they don't care about the property, they're tired of the property, they moved away, they're renting the property out. So the neglect of the property now creates an opportunity for you as a real estate investor or somebody who wants to get into real estate. You don't necessarily have to be an investor to be in real estate. You could just be somebody that wants to get a better return because when you invest your money and you want to get a better return, that doesn't necessarily make you an investor. You just like putting your money in the savings account. So whether you are in the US or in Barbados, every time you see real estate, you have to consciously ask yourself, does this real estate, a house, commercial building, an apartment, does it need some help? And is it the kind of help that I can provide? What help can you provide? Number one help you could provide is help the owner transition from a neglect owner to somebody that can get their cash out of the property. And so you provide help. I look at it as providing help to the owner, really, because they're in distress to some extent. They may not exhibit the distress. They may pretend they're not in distress, but consciously they're thinking, damn, I got this property somewhere there. Nobody's living in it. Maybe there are vagrants there. The grass is overgrown. The neighbors are calling, the city, or come and do something about this property. Okay. And then you showed up and you provide the help. So that's what I meant by when you drive by a property, then you need to consciously think about the fact that this property is in neglect and you're there to help. Okay. So I hope that refreshes everybody's memory as far as last week is concerned. Okay. All right, Dr. O, is that cool?
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you.
All right. So then I stated that last week, if you own a house, you should consider getting one more, right? And if you don't own a house, you should get one, okay? Because real estate still is considered the basis of most of the wealth that people create in the US, okay? And so the fastest way to double your money, increase your wealth, I can't say exponentially, but in some instances, it is exponential because especially if you could get into real estate with no money of yours or very little money, and then between appreciation and rent, your money quadruples within a few years. Okay, so I said if you don't have a house, get one. If you have one, get another one. Okay, and then consider how to pass it on, to your children, grandchildren, and your family members. Okay, so Dr. Old now said, well, Toyin, can you come back and tell them a little bit more about this? Number one, how to get in, and especially how to get in with no money, okay, or very little money. Okay, now there's a lot more technical details involved, but I'm going to give an overview, and then hopefully within the question and answer, I will answer some of the technical details, right? So first things first, how do you get into a property with no money? Well, first of all, you got to find the property, okay? And part of the find that we're talking about is you must look for a property that needs help, right? Mm-hmm. Look for an owner that is in distress, okay? Look for properties that are for sale, excuse me. Mm-hmm. Look for properties either online, driving by. You could even look for properties by calling agents, right? For example, you could call an agent and just give them your specific requirements, depending on where you are in the US or wherever in the world, okay? So let's say you call an agent and you say, look, my name is Toyin, I'm looking to buy properties. It's my first time. I don't have a lot of money, but can you look for me in your multiple listing service for owners that are motivated, that are willing to help me buy the property? Okay, sometimes the agents may not be conducive to that proposition, because when agents think of only one, I can't say one thing, but they're mostly one way in terms of, okay, the first thought will be, well, if you have no money, how do I get paid? Right? Because they're always thinking about their commission. And if you're coming in with no money and the property is supposed to change hands, the agent has to figure out how to get paid, okay? But that doesn't necessarily mean you can't get in because, for example, we've been able to ask agents, okay, fine, your commission is 10 grand. How about getting paid over 3 months? Everything in real estate is negotiable, right? How about deferring your commission to a certain extent until I sell the property, right? Depending on how, I don't necessarily like the word desperate, how motivated the owner is. If a property has been on a listing for 100 days, 200 days, the owner hasn't sold, well, obviously the agent hasn't made commission, right? So if you are creative enough to solve the owner's problem, which means, skip for example, the owner has a property in the market for like 200 days, that's over half a year, right? But they're making payments on it. If the owner is making payments, the property is going into disrepair, and you now show up, say, guess what? I'll make the payments for you. If the agent defers their commission, just give me the opportunity. I'll go and fix it up, okay? And as I begin renting it, or if I fix it up and I sell it, then I can pay off the agent, and you won't have to be coming out of pocket for $1,000, because a property owner that's coming out of pocket for $1,000 a month, if they don't have a lot of money, sooner or later they're probably going to go into foreclosure.
It's still their property. Makes sense.
Excuse me. Was that a question or something? I heard something.
I'm not interested.
Huh? Okay, so the owner is making payments. Nobody's really happy making payments on a property they're not using, that is not rented. Okay, they might be bearing it. Okay, and if the property is for sale, it means they intended to sell it. They want to sell it, right? But they can't rent it, probably maybe because of where it is. They don't want to rent it because they fear that, well, if I rent it, they're going to ruin it. So they're bearing the $1,000. Or I mean, we've had people that make payments on $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a month because they really don't want to rent their property. They don't know what to do. The agency is telling them, don't worry, we're going to sell it sooner or later. So as an investor or somebody that wants to be an investor, how do you take control of that property, right? So there are several ways that you could take control. So I'm going to talk about maybe one or two of them, right? So that while you are thinking about it, then you'll be able to figure out, okay, this is one way I can get in. So the first one I'm going to talk about is a lease, right? So you run into a property, you don't have money. Let's just pretend you have no money, okay? Or you have a few $1,000, right? But you don't want to go out to get a loan. One of the easiest ways to get in is to call the owner, or even if an agent is involved, right? Or call the agent and do some form of negotiation, right? But most of the time, 99% of the time, as an investor, your first port of call is actually the owner. Okay, if you have to go through the agent, it's a little bit more difficult. In fact, it's very tough. Not that it's not possible, but it's tougher if you don't have the experience. When you talk to the owner, the objective is really to create a relationship to where the owner begins to trust you, that this is somebody that will do what they said they plan to do. Okay, this is somebody that I like. This is somebody that can protect my property, protect my interest. So you could say to the owner to begin with, once you find the property, Mr. Jones, I noticed your property is vacant. What is your plan for it? Oh, we don't know, my belongs to my uncle, my uncle left it for me and I don't know what to do. I'm in Oklahoma, the property is in Utah or someplace. So then you ask the owner, now I'm interested in buying it, right? Will you sell it will you sell the property to me? So either the owner is going to say yes or no. If they say yes, okay, cool. So let me check it out, right? By the way, how much are you asking? Okay. If they say no, your next question should be, well, why not? Because they will have to give you a reason. If they say no and you say, okay, thank you, well, then you haven't lost anything. I probably have to put my phone on vibration. Sorry about that. So if they say no, you ask them. Okay. So if they say no, you ask why not, they will give you an explanation. If it's an explanation that you could overcome, you know, we call it objection, right? If it's an objection you could overcome, you try to overcome it, because if the reason makes sense to them, okay, and it makes sense to you, and you have a way of resolving the problem. Usually the objection will be a reason why they don't want to sell, right? Okay, you have to overcome the objection. For example, say, well, we're not ready to sell because of X, Y, Z. Okay, Mr. Jones, if I can help you solve X, Y, Z, will you sell? Well, we don't really want to sell because we want to keep it in the family. Then you give them this other option. One of the easiest and fastest options that new investors use is a lease option. In other words, you go in and rent the property with an option to buy, for example, if you don't have money. Okay, and there's an abundance of those opportunities for new investors that have no money. Okay, when I started several years ago, we used to call for rent by owner, right? And the proposition would be, okay, Mr. Jones, you want to rent your property for $1,000 a month. Okay, how about I come in and I lease it for 1 year, okay, and then I'll buy it at the end of 1 year. So you have one or two objections. Oh, well, we don't plan to sell, we just want to rent. Okay. But if they happen to be receptive to your question in terms of lease with option to buy, why would they want the option to buy? Number one, when you do lease with option to buy, the owner does not have to do anything. As long as they're landlords, the tenants can call them, hey, come and fix my toilets, come and do this. When you're doing lease with option, the chances are the maintenance of the property is now yours, okay? But you get to lock an option price, possibly for 1 year. So if the property goes up, say for example, you lease with an option to buy a property for 200,000, right? At the end of 1 year, you could buy it for 200,000. If the market has gone up to 250,000, 210,000, then you immediately make the equity. Meanwhile, you got in with only about a couple of grand, maybe the first and last. Okay, so that's the first opportunity for you, for those who are thinking, well, what is this guy talking about? No money, no money. Well, I'm sure you have a couple of grand. If you don't have a couple of grand, just put the first and last on your credit card. If you don't have that, borrow it from your friend. Or if you're good at persuasion, you could persuade the owner to actually let you in, and you will make the first payment and the deposit the moment you rent the property, right? So let's say, for example, the owner agrees with you. One of the first deals that I did in California was I put the property in contract, okay, and I told the owner, look, I'm buying this property because either I'm going to resell it or I'm going to rent it out. And so we agreed to about 30-day contract. In between the 30 days, I put the ad in the paper that I have a property for sale. You know, you could come in and take over my payment. So I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But you could do the same thing with a lease option. Okay, once you get it under contract, you could actually call, put an ad in the paper. Yeah, hey, I have a property, I have an option on it, and I'm looking for renters. A renter comes in, okay, they give you the first and last, okay, within the 30 days before you take possession of the property, you now have money to give to the owner, to where you are now sandwiched between the owner and the renter. So you're basically in the middle because you have an option. Okay, you now transfer some of your option to the renter, or you basically keep your option and rent the property to the new tenant. Okay, so that's one of the fastest ways to get in if you have no money. Now, what if the owner is not interested in renting the property and you still have no money? Well, first you could persuade the owner to actually owner finance. We call it seller financing, right? you could tell Mr. Jones, well, I love the property. I'm going to go in and fix it up. I have no money, but I want you to be my bank. A lot of owners don't understand that, but you have to explain it to them. What do you mean be your bank? Mr. Jones, I will make payments to you as if you are the bank. So rather than for you to get all your cash now, okay, I will make payments to you for 10 years, 15 years, or maybe 5 years, and I'll pay it off in 5 years. Or I could start making payments now, and within the next year, if I get financing, then I'll pay you off. So you have to give them all those options, okay? The degree of acceptance by the owner depends on how motivated they are, number one, how trusting they are of you, because a lot of this is really based on trust, how trusting they are of you, the degree of risk they will be taking on the property. For example, the degree of risk lowers if the property is not a high-end property. For example, somebody's selling $1 million property and you tell them, you know what, how about I come in? It's not impossible because, it's happened before. How about I come in, give you no money and just occupy? They'll be worried, well, yeah, but what if you destroy my property? Especially since you have no skin in the game, they call it. There's no risk, okay? As a new investor, right, I will focus on what I call bread and butter properties. Bread and butter means that properties where there are plenty of people that will rent it from you right away, or there are plenty of people that will buy it. Okay, so before you get to the high-end properties, just focus on properties in a neighborhood where, number one, properties are moving fast, but the average buyer there can qualify for FHA loan. Okay, there are more buyers than there are sellers most of the time, which sometimes it does exist in a lot of places. Okay, so if you focus on that, it's a lot easier for you to persuade somebody who has a $300,000 house, $400,000 house, okay, that they need to get rid of. Now, if the property is free and clear, which means that if they owe no money on it, it's a little bit difficult for them to just turn it over to you, right? But most of the people that fall in a category that have to sell their property, either because of they owe too much on the property, number one, they have no way of making payments. So for example, they lost their job, or they have to move right away. Okay, so those are degrees of motivation. They're going through divorce, they lost their job. Okay, those are degrees of motivation that somebody who is brand new, or even people that have experience, will focus on in this industry. Some people just focus on foreclosures, they focus on people that have divorce, people that lost their job. You could get a list of all those people and reach out to them as an individual. Okay, so for example, when somebody has a payment on their property and they have to move out of state or they have a reason to sell, the payment is already a problem. Before it goes into foreclosure, you could go in as an investor and explain to them, okay, say for example, the person has already moved out of state, so they're now somewhere else and they have to keep making payments. Okay, those are some of the easiest deals to actually make, because you could go in, take over the property, okay, which means you will take over their loan, you start making payments, right? And Mr. Jones will now have a peace of mind wherever he moved to. You know, he moved out of state because of his job. This move was in a hurry, because you will be surprised when you run into people that need to sell. The husband has moved because of the job. The wife is still in the house, but she wants to move too. The only reason she's in the house is because they're worried about something might happen to the house. So the moment you show up and say, guess what? I'll take over the house. I'll take over your payment. Then you can move to where you want to go. and you don't have to worry about the next payment. Okay, now you have no money, you're able to take over the payment. You can even persuade them to make the next payment for you because they have a need more than you do. Okay, Mr. Jones, your payment is $2,000. Well, guess what? I don't have 2,000. How about you guys make the next 2 payments and I'll take it over in about 3 months? Okay, it does happen. The reason I'm telling you this is these are things that we've done. These are things I know people do in the industry on a regular basis. Okay, so if Mr. Jones agrees, then you have in every state you have what they call escrow. In some states, it's an attorney. Okay, in order to protect yourself, it's always good to use an escrow company, right? Escrow company, an attorney. If you're very experienced, okay, I wouldn't say you don't need an escrow, but the paperwork for real estate is so simplified in the US that you could complete it by yourself as long as you and the seller agrees, okay? And you could take the same paperwork to the county recorder and record it. Most of the time, these days, I use escrow a lot. In the past, we didn't really use a lot of escrow because especially if you're buying from the owner, there's no law that requires you have to use an escrow. It's real estate is an agreement between 2 people, the seller and the buyer. As long as it's in writing, whatever you put on a piece of paper, I've written contracts. When I used to go buy a lot of properties, I write the contracts on my yellow pad. Okay, even the warranty date, you could write it on your yellow pad and record it. Now, before you start doing that, make sure you get some knowledge and training. Okay, but as long as you could write the agreement on a piece of paper, the county will record it for you because it's a meeting of the minds between 2 people. Okay, Mr. Jones agrees to lease his property to Mary. Mary will make payments at such and such time. Here's the address of the property. And Mary will put 0 down and start payments in about 2 months. You could write the agreement any which way you guys want, okay? As long as it has the 4 elements of a contract. In other words, the offer, the acceptance, the time of performance, meeting of the minds, okay? Those are a little bit more technical, okay? But what it means is that you must agree to buy something. You must offer some kind of consideration. The seller must agree to sell to you, right? And then you must have the time of performance. That's it. As long as all those 3 are written, you could write it in any language. When you get to the county, they have translators there, okay? And they can translate it for you, all right? So, so we have the owner carrying for you. Now, let's say you have some money and you could put some money down and the owner is still going to be your bank. So the owner will look for a way to protect themselves, in which case, they will create a note for you, okay? John wants to buy my house. He's going to put down $20,000 or $10,000. I'm going to carry the paper. And so I'll be the bank and John will make payments to me. So the owner will create an instrument for themselves to protect them so that if you default, they will keep your $20,000 and then they'll get the house back. That's what they call, deed of trust or mortgage in some other states. In California, we call it deed of trust. Okay, which means they have interest in the property, and you, as the borrower, gives them the power of sale. Okay, and they have a trustee that will represent the seller in executing the foreclosure sale. So as a seller, there's some risk involved. If you get enough down payment, you could always cover your risk, okay, as long as the property is not destroyed, right? So if they don't make payments for about 2 months, you just call the trustee, say, hey, John hasn't paid me for 2 months. Please go get my house back. It's as simple as it. In some states, it takes longer. They call it judicial foreclosure, which means you have to go to court to get your house back. In California, 90 days. In some states, I think it's 1 month, maybe like I think Texas or so. In 1 month, you get your house back. Okay. So those are part of the risk people worry about that, I'm the owner, why should I give my house to somebody? right? If you're able to explain both the risk, the downside, the upside to the owner that is desperate, need to sell, right? They will understand that number one, the real estate is going to be there. It's protected by title insurance. It's protected by regular insurance. Maybe there will be some damage, okay? The risk they are taking from having to make payments on the property usually might be overweight in terms of what if they could get some income right now, or they don't have to go into foreclosure. Because the moment you go into foreclosure, then the chances of you using your credit to buy another house it's lower, because a foreclosure usually takes about 3 years to get into another loan, especially if you want to use a bank loan, right? So most people try to avoid foreclosure unless they can't. If they can get their house rented, lease optioned, or owner financed to somebody else, they will do that rather than just let the house go into foreclosure, especially if they want to protect their credit. Okay, so those are two simple opportunities for somebody that has no money but wants to get it. You could use a lease option, or you could get the owner to carry the paper for you, or you could just bring a couple of friends to the party. I call it a party because you found the house. The owner insists, hey, you know what? I want cash. I don't care. But whenever you give the owner cash, when I say cash, it doesn't necessarily mean cash money. It could be a bank loan, right? But they will get paid faster than somebody who is going to go qualify for a loan, right? Because you're bringing hard money loan there, okay, that is available within 2 to 3 days, 10 days, 15 days, compared to somebody who's going to be in there for 45 days, do an inspection, make them jump all the kind of hoops, make them fix stuff, right? So before you start going out, you could gather your friends together, right? And say, okay, we're going to form a club, right? Everybody brings in $5,000, right? It's 10 of you, you got 50 grand. So with 50 grand, you could usually buy, up to $200,000-$300,000 property by putting 50,000 down. The hard money lender will show up and make up the difference. So in that case, you could be out there bidding on properties all day long, as long as you're bidding below. I don't like to use the word below market. You're bidding at an appropriate price to where you are protected, the hard money lender is protected, and you will have a built-in profit. Because if you're out there just buying properties at market, you have to wait for appreciation in order to get your money back, right? So there's nothing wrong with it, but you just have to wait. Whereas if you're buying it from motivated seller, and because you're paying cash, they're willing to give you a discount, right? So at some point you get into the same psyche that one of the reasons we buy properties is to get paid. I never buy a property unless the seller is going to pay me. You understand? It's just like being a doctor. When you go to the doctor, you pay the doctor, right? Well, I show up, I'm the doctor. I'm there to help you. So what is the compensation? My compensation is that, number one, I'm bringing cash. I'm going to close in 10 days. So I'm solving your problem. Since I'm solving your problem, Mr. Jones, I want a discount. How much discount? Well, that's subject to negotiation. And usually we ask for 30 to 40% discount. It might shock some of you. You'd be like, well, what do you mean? Why would somebody give you their property for 30% discount? Well, that's the same question that I asked myself 20 years ago. But these days, it happens, okay? And most investors do not buy property at market. You have to buy it at a discount. It's like, can you imagine if Kmart was buying their goods from Walmart, right? Kmart goes to Walmart, buys products, and then try to sell it to you. They will lose money all day long. That's why they all go to China and bring it here and sell it to you at retail, because they paid wholesale. So we buy properties at wholesale, and then we fix it up and sell it retail. So that's one of the things you have to get in your psyche, that if you're getting in this business, you must understand that properties are available at wholesale prices and your goal is to sell it retail. So don't go there and they say, well, the property is 200,000 and you're negotiating for $2,000 discount. You're already losing money going in. Okay. So
should we take some questions?
Yeah, we will take some questions right now. Okay, because I think I've covered three
That's right. Yeah.
options, right? So I'll open the floor up for questions to Dr. Ho. So go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So Mr. Kayode Ayosmith wants to know if we need a real estate license to do any of this.
So in most states, actually I would say all the states, okay, anytime you represent yourself as the buyer, you don't need a license, okay, because you're the principal, okay. In order for a license to apply, you will be acting as a sales agent expecting commission. If you're buying for yourself, for your own portfolio, or even for buying for a group of your people, you guys don't need a license.
Okay, thank you. So Dr. Kapp says, how do you get the public listings that you talked about?
Oh, Zillow, just go to Zillow.
Okay.
I mean, just go to Zillow, put in your zip code. Voila, thousands of properties. You see how long it's been there, how long they've been listed, and the phone number of the owner. Just pick up the phone. Mr. Jones, I see your property on Zillow. Are you trying to sell it? Yeah. Oh, okay, good. But I noticed it's been here for 50 years, So are you still making payments? Yeah, unfortunately, we're in Utah and then we had to move. Now we've been trying to rent it. Can you, are you looking to rent? Yeah. So you ask them questions, they will tell you their problem, and then you figure out how to solve it.
So what are the potential liability associated with the approach you have shared?
So that question
he shared three approaches. Which one? All the approaches.
Okay, so the question is loaded. So wait, okay. So here's my question. You're trying to buy a property. You have no money. What liability are you worried about? You didn't put any money down, right? So where's the liability? Or maybe the person, the person may rephrase their question, or risk. Maybe you talk about risk, right? But when you put a ton of money down, yeah, there is risk, especially if you go out there and you pay retail on a property and then you have to fix it up and you can't do it and all that kind of stuff. But when you're doing creative financing, your liabilities are limited. Usually sometimes, or your risk is limited to the amount of money you put in there.
So Haman from England, from London, says he's enjoying the presentation, that it goes without saying, make sure the property is insured before commencing property venture. Is this a thing? Should the property be insured?
So I don't know what she means by insurance. All right. So every property or every asset, especially properties, right? Usually you have insurance to cover certain risk, fire, damage, earthquake in some areas, mostly fire and other liabilities in case somebody falls on your property, right? But in the US, we have what is called a title insurance. The title insurance is supposed to protect you from the chain of title that the previous owner created, right? That you may not be able to solve. So the title company will come in, they will insure the title and basically promise you, okay, this property has good title. You will be able to sell it when you're ready. Okay, that's what we call title insurance here.
Great. So he says that's the one he's talking about. So that's wonderful. Dr. Ajagbe, you have your hand raised, sir. Great. You're muted, sir.
Well, thank you, Amazing Toyin. Sometimes when somebody has been doing something very well, it makes it sound so easy and simplistic and like, even a kindergartner can do this. Well, some people may need help, to get started, to jump into this kind of deal. And I think one of the things I have a question about is when we talk about properties being, in distress, uh, some of them are already in disrepair and they have grown yard. There's county lien on that property because the property needs maintenance and the county has been cutting the grass to keep the place, safe for the neighbors and stuff like that. Isn't that supposed to be part of the liability, maybe the one will have to deal with?
Yes,
The
so
li-
so that's a good question. And usually sometimes I want to answer a question by giving you an example of what I've done in the past or what other people may have done. I'll give you an example. So about 5 years ago, I drove by this property that I actually saw it. I bought a property next to it. And I said to myself, oh, you know what? This other property is vacant. Before we leave, finish this, my new buy, I'm going to contact the owner. Well, I finished my property, I sold it, and then I moved on. I forgot about the other property. Well, 5 years later, it was still there, vacant. So, except that the county, the city has gone there, boarded it up, they've been cutting the grass, so they now put a lien on it.
Mhm.
Okay. So the purpose of the lien is that the city, having spent money, the only way they can recover their money is to put a lien on the property. So when the owner sells it, that lien has to be paid off.
Mhm.
Okay. So I came in, I bought the property. I simply sent a letter to the owner. I think I talked about it last week. I sent a letter to the owner. They were living in Vegas. The daughter responded and said, yeah, that's my mom's house. My mom is sick and she's now with me in Vegas, so if you want to buy it, just give us $5,000 and then you figure the rest out. Okay. I contacted, I got a title report. Okay, so that's part of the first things you have to do. You get a title report. It tells you, the title report is like a credit card on a house, on a property. It will tell you all the bad landmines, I call it, right? All the things you have to watch out on the property that title may not be able to solve for you, but they will require you to solve it before they will give you title or before they insure your title. Okay, so I had to contact the city, ask the city what's going on here. Oh, well, we put a lien on it. In fact, we have attorney fees, we have court proceedings, and so far this property owes us $12,000, right? So you now have to add that to your cost before you make an offer to the owner,
Mhm.
because you have to pay it off.
Mhm.
So those are some ways to limit your risk, right? Or mitigate some of your risk.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for that comment. I was just thinking that calculated risks is always better. For somebody who is new into this type of thing, you don't have the cushion of funds that in case some of these unexpected, situations show up, like you don't even know what the plumbing is, you don't know what all those issues of the house that have been abandoned for so long that it's been boarded up has. And you just know that if you're willing to take on the risk and you don't want to be using sweat equity to make it happen, somebody has to bring out the money to bring the house back to code before the money can start making money.
So as a beginner, right? And especially if you have no money, the only thing you have is your sweat equity. Okay. And sometimes it's better to use your sweat equity because it helps you limit your risk or financial risk, because all you're losing is your sweat, right? You go in there and there's a process in this business, you know. I'm sure maybe some people online that actually know it. We call it driving for dollars. Okay, it's very popular in the industry. You get it. I used to do this. I still do it because anytime I'm bored, I get in my car, right? I drive around, even the same neighborhood. Even though you drove it last month, something might pop up this month. So they call it driving for dollars. Okay, you're using your sweat equity because all you have to do is pay for gas. You're not risking any money, and plus, you know, instead of sitting at home watching TV, you go and watch houses and see which one needs help. Okay, so there's very little risk in that. When you do put out your money, right, then you have to do a little bit more investigation. Make sure you get the knowledge, and if you don't have the knowledge, look for somebody in your area, right, or somebody that has the knowledge, and either joint venture with them, right, okay, or have them give you advice. You know, when I say joint venture, meaning that there's this thing called apprenticeship, right? I used to offer it, but I don't really do it as much anymore because people, I don't think they can pay me enough to be, you know, you understand? So I don't offer it anymore. You understand? But there are people in your neighborhood, okay, that will still offer to joint venture with you, right? Or if you find a property, okay, even though you are not like a student, but you could still call somebody like me and say, look, I found this property, help me analyze it, okay, and then see what we can do. You understand? That's a little joint venture right there. Okay, so instead of you letting it go, right, you will still make some money. The only risk you've taken is that you found it with your sweat equity, and you don't necessarily have to do anything after that once you found it. An expert, I mean, I could analyze, negotiate, rehab a property from here behind my computer without getting out of here. You understand? Without even visiting the property. I make offers all day long without getting off my computer. Okay, but for somebody like you, it's going to be high risk.
Mr. Toyin, can I jump in now?
Sure.
So, yes, my name is Kayode.
What's your name?
My name is Kayode.
Oh, hi, how are you?
I'm good. So, you know, when you started, you described this approach as the street approach, right? That's what you described it as. And I love the approach. It's fairly simple. All I'm saying is, you know, in terms of, you know, maybe I'm being too academic in some sense, but from my point of view, I feel like if I say that I will do X, Y, Z and I don't do it, that's an error, or it's either an error or an omission of some sort. And you know, there are liabilities that come with that. That's why I was asking, you know, what are the liabilities that come as a result of that? That's one. Two, in terms of the insurance, somebody owns on the title insurance, there's a name of the insured on it. And how does it work? When you finally have conversations with the individual, you have agreed that you'll be making payments and all that, and eventually you're going to buy it, you know. But as far as insurance is concerned, of course, there's the mortgage side of things, but as far as insurance is concerned, you don't have an insurable interest in that business as long as you're not the named insured on it. Or how does that work? Could you just talk us through how that works?
Okay, so so the first one is what is your liability for not keeping your promise? Well, first of all, you must keep your promise. I mean, you know, this business is about credibility. Your word is your bond. So when you make a promise to a property owner, you keep it, unless circumstances prevent you from keeping it. Say, for example, you take over somebody's payment, and you can't make the payment, your first objective is to call the owner and say, look, I'm having problems making this payment, right? Okay, and if I didn't make it, I know it's going to affect your credit. Are you able to loan me the money? Or you need to run as fast as you can to make sure you do not violate your bond with the owner. That's very important, okay? Because this business, like I said, it's all about credibility. I've had people that, you know, I sold them a house, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago. They called me, oh, you know what? You know, we got another house that we want to sell to you. So if you didn't keep your word 20 years ago or 10 years ago, for that matter, the word it will get around pretty quick, okay? And number two, you could be liable because they could end up suing you for ruining their credit if you just take over their payment, okay? But if you bought the property or if you're doing a lease with option to buy, okay, you're protected to some extent because the only thing you will lose is your option deposit. So there's no liability in there. As long as if you don't make your payments, they'll kick you out of the house, right? And so there's a difference on the second question. There's a difference between title insurance and regular insurance, right? When you buy a house, you get your own insurance to protect you. The title insurance is given to you by the seller, okay, to guarantee that, yeah, the title is clear, right? And then the policy is now in your name. The seller has nothing to do with it because they already paid for it. Okay, so I hope that clears up something for you.
Absolutely, sir. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you very much. I have a question before we round up, please. If you get a property, or when you're looking for a property, should you look for one or avoid one that needs work? Because we talked about flipping them. So, because if the property needs work, you're going to have to fix it before you flip it. So is it better to look for properties that don't need fixing? And if it does need fixing, how do you then do it without your money in
Okay.
it?
So should you look for a property that does not need work? And if you if you find a property that doesn't need work, how do you get in with no money? Is that your question?
Yeah, no, a property that needs work. How do you
Okay.
get in with no money, fix it, and flip it? I know we didn't talk much about flipping today, but we did last time.
Correct. So if the property needs work, right, and you want to get in with no money, obviously you have to figure out how you're going to find the money to fix it. And that's where sometimes partnership comes in, you know, joint venture comes in, or a bank loan, you know, or using your credit card if you have some, right, to fix it. So how much property you get into, how much it needs, how much fixing it needs, right? All those will become clear once you find the property, right? Then you'll be able to look for opportunities or strategies to get the money to fix it, all right? Getting into the property is your first objective. Okay, Mr. Jones, I would like to buy the property, but since this property needs a lot of work, you know, and the market is 200,000, I would like to buy for 100,000 because I still have to do all this work on it. You understand? Okay, so let's say you have to go in and then do $30,000 worth of work. You're still ahead, 70,000, you know, in there. Okay, and so it's up to you to go raise the money right away. Okay, get on title, because once you're on title, then it's a lot easier for you to actually raise the money. So if the owner will let you get on title, okay, then you own the property. And if you own the property, right, you could now call a lender, say, I own this property, it's worth 200,000 once I fix it up. Okay, the owner sold it to me for 100, but I need 30 grand to fix it.
That makes sense. Thank you so much. Auntie Tower, your question, please.
My question is a couple of them together. What do you think about bond property? And also, what do you think about mobile homes?
Okay, bond property, B-O-N-D?
Bond, B-U-R-N.
Oh, you mean fire damage? We call it fire damage. Okay.
Oh.
Okay.
And
So,
mobile homes.
Huh?
And mobile homes.
Mobile homes. So fire damage, I will not, unless you're very experienced. I mean, I've done almost 1,000 or over 1,000 properties. I've never done a fire damage property. Let me see. I think we may have done one. I stay away from them because they require a lot of work. And then the thing is that you can never erase the smoke. That's one thing about this fire damage. You know, if you don't remove all the studs, the new owner you will smell the smoke. Okay, and so that's one of the reasons I stay away. It requires a lot more work. I like to go after, you know, what I call the low-hanging fruit. It's going to take you a while to get there. It comes with experience, right? Okay, and once you have the experience, you prefer the low-hanging fruit because the amount of work is less, right? And you're able to get out faster. Mm-hmm. Fire damage, you know, it's a completely different animal. I would not even think about it, especially if you don't have the experience. There are mobile homes. Mobile homes, if they're on land, in other words, they're not in a park. Some people specialize in buying mobile homes in a park. Okay, in California, it's a little bit complex. You know, I've done it in the past. I didn't like the experience, but the laws have changed, right? And we actually did. We bought a mobile home in a park. I don't know, about 1.5 years ago. We just sold it, right? And we did about, I don't know, 7 mobile homes, but they're on land. So in California, a mobile home, once it's on land, it's almost like a house, right? And then when you put it on permanent foundation, right, then it becomes a single family residence. So they treat it just like a house, right? It may not command the same appreciation, right? But for bank financing, FHA financing, it's just a house. So, you know, they'll get the FHA insurance and all that.
So, Dr. Ajagbe.
Thank you.
Go ahead, sir. One question, sir. Dr. Ajagbe, you are muted. You're still muted. Okay, good.
Well, when you find a distressed home that you want to buy, how do you get to do the appraisal to know actually what the value of the property could be, so that it's not just a guesswork? Because if the owner tells you, oh yeah, it's about 200,000, but the house is actually worth way less than that, so where are you bargaining from? You can't do the appraisal, or how do you go about around that?
Okay, so believe it or not,
Yes.
in the past, that was a very difficult question for a new beginner, right? But how do you find out how much a property is worth today? Just put it in Google.
But what we're talking about are distressed homes.
It doesn't matter whether distressed or not.
The fact that, okay, yeah. The fact that a house is boarded up, yeah, for a long time in a neighborhood where the house have appraised a lot, does not justify that the house being boarded up is at the same level of appreciation as the other neighbors. Okay,
so how do you, so for example, let me give you an example. You put it in Google, Google will pull up Zillow, right? Zillow will now tell you, in this neighborhood, houses are selling for 500,000.
I understand that. That's what I'm saying.
Dr. Ajagbe, Mr. Duarte says you can do a comp of properties in the area. So the house is boarded, but you can do a comp of properties in the area. Again, as Amazing Toyin said, you're going to go back to Google. So I
can answer.
Let me clear something for Dr. Ajagbe. So, Dr. Ajagbe, I think you are worried about, okay.
No, I'm not worried. I'm just saying for understanding. Yes, so if you don't know, if you don't have a way of appraising a property, okay, you will be guessing on whatever the value is. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, so let me clear up your guess, right? Just take an example. You live on, XYZ Main Street, right?
Mm.
The properties in Main Street and in the neighborhood are selling for 400, right?
Mhm.
You see a property that is boarded up, right? Now, because it's boarded up, you don't know if it's got damage inside.
Exactly.
You have no clue, okay?
Mhm.
So, but you know the street is selling for 500,000. You know that for a fact because you saw a for sale sign, it says 500, right? You look at Zillow, they said the other property sold last month for 500. So the chances are the property that is boarded up, when you fix it up, you could sell it for 500.
Mhm.
Does that
Okay.
make sense?
Okay. Yes.
So you now
Dr. Jagbe,
you call the owner and you say, hey, Mr. Jones, I want to buy your property. It's boarded up. Maybe it's got damage. And the owner says, yeah, it needs a lot of work, but if you give me a good price, I'll sell it to you. And you ask the owner, what's a good price? I don't know, just give me 300. You got $200, 200,000
Potential
in there, correct.
Mhm.
And then you go to the owner and say, hey, I can't pay 300, I'll give you 250. Okay, and I want to see the inside. Okay, you now go see the inside and you see the damage. Oh, no, I can't give you 250. I'm only going to give you 200. So you got a 300, markup in there, right? And you go in and you fix it for 60,000 or 200,000, right? You're in it now by 300. You still got 200,000 to play with. That's how you figure that out. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean.
So, Dr. Jagbe, sir, for sake of time, because we can take you anytime. You can link up.
So you
with
could, Dr. Jagbe, you could text me with all your scenarios.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So
Yes.
I'm going to ask, because this is still in line, my daughter, Abby, to come on. She says she has an answer. Abby.
Oh, good. Okay.
Hello. Good evening, sir.
You're not going to show your face? Okay, go ahead.
No.
Go ahead.
But yes, I really liked Dr. Ajabe's question, and I wanted to answer it because we had gone through that process over here in Austin. And basically what we were told and what we do is exactly go on Zillow and see what the houses on that street, on that area, what they're going for. And that gives you an idea of how much your house, the property that you're trying to invest in, how much it would sell for once you fix it up. Now, what we didn't realize in the beginning was major structural defects. We didn't know that there were such things like that. We just thought, a little tweak here and there, tap out paint it, everything will be fine or whatever. Nope. There's so much more that entails when it comes to making these investments and whatever. So I think my main question today is to follow up on what Dr. Ajagbe said, Mr. Toyin, is that how do new people who are getting into real estate, how do you identify because there's structural and there's major structural defects. How do you identify them? Because it's one thing to try to buy a property and then you realize it's going to cost you $300K to fix something that you're trying to buy for 200. You haven't had BC. So, how do you identify these major ones? What do you do? What are the steps you take to ensure that you don't enter one chance, like Nigerians say, you don't get yourself into trouble?
So Amazing Toyin,
and all of that.
Attorney Akinshola wrote here, you may want to maybe build on that comparables first. He said you shouldn't be guessing anything. You inspect, investigate before you appreciate the risk. So, over to you.
Yeah, anytime you are in doubt, you bring in the experts. Simple. Okay. And that's some of the reasons, where you need to get a lot of practice. Okay. I've never had to bring an expert. And I tell you why. One time I went to look at a property. And when I got there were other people there talking to the seller. So I waited outside. The seller came out and said, well, I got some people here, So these people, it's funny. They were my previous students, right? I taught them everything they knew. So when they now came out and they saw me and they said, "Oh, Toyin, don't worry, we already got it, wrapped up. You can go home now." So, but I went in, I talked to the owner anyway. So I talked to the owner. There were structural problems in the back of the property. You could see it. California, we have earthquake, right? So it was like this, right? And so they told the owner, "Oh, we're going to bring an inspector on Monday before we can make an offer." I went in and I told the owner, "I'm going to give you an offer right now." In fact, the owner came from Maryland, EDC. It's a probate. They came on Friday. They want to go back on Sunday, but they're now thinking, well, what are we going to do with all these properties that belongs to our mom? So they hired an estate sale company to sell it for them, right? So I asked them, okay, so you're going to go to DC and come back in about 3 weeks because of the estate sale? They said, yeah, because we have to sell them. So I said, okay, how much did the estate company promise you? Oh, when we saw that, and we'll probably get about 6,000-7,000. Cool, okay. So I said, what if I can buy everything? So you don't have to come back. I'll buy everything. Don't worry about the foundation. I'll fix that, right? The other people were going to bring an inspector on Monday. I wrote the contract right there and then. Then Monday never came. You understand? So if you have the experience, you could evaluate all that, right? Or you could get an inspector, or you could take an inspector with you when you go. It all comes with practice. Okay?
Well, you're still doing something. You're saying things because you have the cash reserve. If you don't have money, because I think the draw for tonight's topic is that how can people do it without their money?
Okay,
they don't have.
So I gave 3 examples earlier, Dr. Ajagui, right? So I gave 3 examples, right? And
no, I'm just saying in light of what the question about structural damage and somebody being novice, not knowing what this is, just going there and seeing that this is a good deal, and then say, wow, I want to get into this business for the first time, and we are finding this, but we never knew what structural damage is all about. So what I'm saying is, how can somebody like that avoid some problem, or it's inevitable that you're really going to get into some of these things to find out?
So what I would say to that, doctor, is this: you must crawl before you walk, right?
Okay.
And if it's going to be too much for you, you avoid it and you go to an easy one.
Okay.
Or you find a joint venture partner in your area, somebody who's already doing real estate, and let them know, look, you know what, I want to start looking for real estate. If I find something, can I bring it to you? And then you could show me the ropes and we'll split the money.
Okay.
That's another way of using your sweat equity.
Okay.
And you know what? I would add, go for the properties that don't have issues to start off with. But
exactly,
yes. In the beginning, right? Attorney Akinshola said, that's why you have to inspect, investigate for structural defects. Market survey also helps. Mr. Doherty said, due diligence, do your due diligence. But again, if you're new, stick with the, clean, no problem houses. Attorney Tino also said, sometimes the buyer are upfront. They are truthful about the defects of the property. County records would also show so many encumbrances and risk, like assessments, zoning, lies, etc., involved in the property. And Hammond from England said an astute question regarding hidden factors, that is structural issues. But use of business savvy is most important from the get-go. Thanks, Toyin. Use of due diligence is important. That's Hammond's suggestion. And it's in Britain. I mean, I don't know what time is it now. It's like 1 o'clock or 2. But I don't want to miss this question or this comment. when you were talking about houses that are burned, Dr. Ajay wanted to know if the same thing applies to water damaged homes or houses.
Yes. Water damage is also pretty dangerous for somebody who's a novice, right? Because when you have water damage, depending on how long the water has been there, okay, you could have mold in there that is not detectable. You now buy this house, you sell it, right? The new owners get sick, and God forbid they found mold. What they're going to attribute that mold to their sickness. It's up to you now to go and defend yourself in court. So if there's water damage and you don't have the experience, I will avoid it unless you have a partner that has a lot of experience, because you have to do a lot of restoration, to the property. I think fire damage is probably worse than water damage, right? Because water, you could take off the drywalls and dry it. Fire, sometimes the smoke goes into the wood and the smell persists. Yeah. So,
with water damage, you can treat, right? There are treatments like the Clorox bleach with water treatments that you can use.
Clorox does not get out the smell of smoke.
No. Water damage.
Water, yeah, you just have to dry it.
Treat
Yeah,
that.
you have to dry it. Yeah.
And you can treat it, right?
Yeah, okay. Correct. Yeah.
And so they said also, should the new or fresh starters get the ones with less repair works or ones without work?
So there are all aspects of real estate. Okay. There are some people that actually specialize in they call it pretty houses, right? They're houses that are almost brand new. The seller is motivated, right? He doesn't need any work. Okay, you could specialize in that also if you don't want to even have anything to do with fixing up. Okay, you just have to figure out a way to get to the seller, know they're in distress, right, and give them a reason to sell to you. So
thank you so much.
There's all levels.
Sorry, thank you. So Kayode, you've been raising your hand, and thank you for waiting. I usually call on the raised hands first, but I had so many comments that linked together, and Amazing Toyin has somewhere to go. Now I want to break it loose. So Kayode, kindly unmute and ask your question or your comment. While you're doing that, Amazing Toyin, about that apprenticeship, can you give Medical Mondays a certain number of people you can bring under your wings as a gift to Medical Mondays? Can you think about it?
I will consider that and then get back.
Think about it and give me an answer at the end of the program in about 5 minutes.
No, I can't give you an answer right away. It involves a lot of work. And before I make a commitment, I have to be sure that I can deliver on that commitment.
Okay. So,
but I'll give as much as I can here, and I will entertain, some texts, right? Actually, last week we were trying to revive. It's called, the program was called Real Estate Entrepreneurial Program, right? That I was doing it about 5 years ago. It's got 52 lessons in it of all aspects of real estate. Okay, so I'm considering reviving it. I'm not sure yet. But if I did, then I'll give everybody here a discounted price on the program. Okay?
Thank you.
We'll give you everything you want to know about real estate. It's got 52 lessons.
Thank you. So we'll stay tuned, and we'll keep our Medical Mondays family informed once that decision is made. So Kayode, go ahead.
He already answered the question that I wanted to ask.
No, your question was in the chat box. You said something about partnership.
Yeah, he already said.
Different. That is different from what we're talking about. We're talking about apprenticeship.
Oh, well, what I was saying was, Mr. Toyin said something. He said, you could call somebody who is experienced. So I'm pretty much just asking him, is he that experienced person that we can call? Like if I see a deal that I think is worth, he's wild and I give him a call, is this something he'll be interested in?
I never say no to money, right? So if I look at it, it makes sense, then I might consider joining you as a partner, right? Okay, but it has to make sense. Now, just because it doesn't make sense to me, right, given the distance, right, then I will explain to you or tell you, well, you could find an investor closer to you that can help you take it down as opposed to myself. You know, does
that answer your question?
Absolutely.
Fantastic. So this brings us to Medical Mondays moment. I'd like to thank on this platform, first, Amazing Toyin, for another amazing night. And I'll revert back to you for your closing advice. But I want to thank my children on the platform. And I mean, these are not people I call, I have lots of children that are not related. These are my children. Abby, the one who spoke, one day is on the forum. I can apologize, it's on the plane. It would have been here. Yesterday, my mom went home to be with the Lord. I lost my mom. I'm now an orphan. And the children came on the platform, even though it's been an interesting period or hours for us in our family. And I just want to thank them. I want to thank Medical Mondays family also, because I think quite a few of you have heard one way or the other, called me, texted me. I appreciate you all. And thank you for still coming. We have to keep going. Someone, or a few people asked me, I'm going to have Medical Mondays. You should just take the night off. But no, my mom will want us to be here. She will want us to continue going. Right, Dr. Ajagbe and the children. And those who know my mom well. She will want us to be here. So thank you. That's our Medical Mondays moment for today. Dr. Ajagbe, you have your hand raised.
Yes, I was about to say that on your behalf, but then it's good that you've said it. Since you didn't start with that when you started the program tonight, I was just going to mention that to those who might not have heard that you're bereaved or that your mom went to be with the Lord yesterday.
Thank you.
So she's resting in perfect peace. We should be confident of that she's resting in the bosom of her Lord.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
you have been comforted. Thank God for that.
Adding my voice to Professor Ajagbe, Dr. O, everyone's voice is coming to you right now to say we are with you. And Mama has left you joy. That's what we say. It's everybody says sadness, but this is not sadness for you, it's joy. So keep it up. And we really love your courage and your boldness for being here. God bless you. God bless Mama for
Thank you. I appreciate you all. Thank you so much.
Dr. O, welcome to the club. And I pray the Lord minister to you. It's not an easy road to travel, but the Lord will continue to uphold you, comfort you, and lift you up every moment when you need him. In Jesus' name.
Amen. Amen. Dr. O, we are all hugging you and giving you all you are the sister, mom, everything for all of us. Many of us are surprised by this, and for you to hold this meeting and go through it like that you're a strong lady. And your mom will continue to strengthen you through Christ, and we're here for you, for your family. Thank you for all you do. It's just amazing. And God will give you all the peace and everything, and her soul rest in perfect peace in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Mama made it easy or difficult. I don't know, but I watched her go for the first time in my life. I watched my mom pass away singing praises to the Lord.
Wow.
She recited the Lord's Prayer, recited Psalm 23 3 times, and busted into singing. So we started singing with her virtually. And I saw the eyes open wide, and she was gone. while watching. Even in my career, I'd not seen that. So, to God be the glory. Thank
That
you.
was a gift.
Hallelujah.
Yes.
That was a gift to you. That's all.
It was a gift. It was a gift, a rare one. A rare one. I know, I recognize, I appreciate. Yeah.
All right, Dr. O.
Yeah, doctor.
Amazing Toyin.
Yeah.
Can you give us your closing remarks, please?
So, well, first of all, Dr. O, I appreciate the fact that you actually put this webinar on, even though you had this incident. I mean, you know, to lose your mom is not easy, and then for you to still be whole. I know Mama was, you know, advanced in age, but she's still your mom, you know, and one way we feel her absence. So I just want to say, may our soul rest in perfect peace, and accept my condolences. And we'll be there for you, whatever you need. And then what I want to say to the audience is thank you again for having me, right? Please don't be afraid to venture into real estate. If you don't know too much, get the education. I always welcome a text. You know, you could text me your questions anytime. You could call me. I'm very busy. You understand? So if you call me and I put you on hold, Dr. O will probably tell you, I've put her on hold for a while. And then she said, Toyin, I'm still on hold from yesterday. Because I take calls based on priority. You know, the most number one priority is a seller. While you were here, a seller has already called me. You know, when a seller calls, okay, I have to answer their phone, right? Because if I don't pick it up, they'll probably call the next guy. And so that's one of the advantages that I have, you know, when it comes to this business. I know a seller call and I pick it up right away, okay? So, but I'll still give opportunities for people that want to learn. You know, you could send me a text and I'll try to answer your question as far as possible. If you have to partner with somebody, right, don't be afraid, because the fastest way for you to learn is to learn from somebody who is doing it, okay? All the books in this world will not teach you anything, because after you're done reading the books, you're still going to be afraid to take the step, okay? I know, because it happened to me. You know, I read several books, I went to several seminars, right, until I started doing it before I get comfortable. So half a loaf is better than no loaf, right? It's better for you to share, you know, a $20,000, $30,000 deal, make 15 grand, than not venture at all. So that's my parting words for you. Don't be afraid of real estate. Get as much knowledge as you can. Ask people that know, partner with people that know, and the success is yours if you take the steps. You pay the dues. You pay your dues, right? And you do have to pay your dues. It doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen magically, and it doesn't happen by you just, you know, hoping and praying in bed. You have to be on the street. Okay. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank
you know, I just realized I have my uncle on the forum. Can you believe it? And he wrote about my mother, my mentor and guardians of my life. May her gentle soul rest in perfect peace. Those are the people who raised me in the same household. Brother Juby. Ekalesa, thank you.
Crying. Daddy is crying.
Sorry.
Well,
It's
we thank God.
Daddy. Our soul is resting in peace.
Amen. Amen.
Amen. So, Amazing Toyin, thank you so very much.
All right.
We appreciate you beyond words. And he's right. Please, if you need his contact, let me know. And his book is online. You know, I posted over and over last week. I know some people bought it and said they wanted his signature. And I'm sorry, I'm a little bit not overwhelmed, but I have a lot on my hands presently. I can't promise you I'm going to get Amazing Toyin to sign your books yet when I haven't signed mine. So, but we'll get it done somehow. And until next week, please be safe. Remember, we still have COVID, RSV, flu, and that monkeypox virus. So let's stay safe. And again, I want to remind us that we are not establishing care here on this platform. And Amazing Toyin also is not soliciting. You can hear that. I'm begging for him to have apprentices, and he's running away from it. I'll see how I can twist his hand, but we are not establishing relationships on the platform. We're here to guide, to help. And tonight, as we said last week, the reason we're doing this is financial health because of the, it looks like there's austerity, is what I want to call it, all over the world. Everything is expensive. People are screaming that there's no money, but we don't have to be in that space. We can continue to have generational wealth on this platform. Is why we had this financial session. And I think we would have one more next week and revert back to those healthy, gooey stuff. So until we see next week, have a blessed one. Good night.
Enjoy your Barbados.